Hey everybody, hope you guys are all doing safe. So you're watching footage of the main camera of the Oppo Find N2. This is the newest foldable phone from Oppo. The claim to fame for the Oppo Find N2 is that it is now the new lightest foldable phone on the market. It weighs 233 grams. That's 40 grams lighter than the original Oppo Find N and 20 grams lighter than the Galaxy Z Fold 4 and the Xiaomi Mix Fold 2. The fact that Oppo managed to shed almost 40 grams in weight over the first Find N is impressive because the Find N2 mostly keeps the same design as the original Find N1 in terms of dimensions and overall shape. Now this footage you're watching is coming straight from the main camera. It's a 50 megapixel Sony IMX890 sensor with a 1/1.5 inch image sensor size. It also has OIS, so stabilization should be good. You get a little bit of subtle depth of field too, because the sensor size is respectable. But there is a really good video bokeh mode too. Let me turn it on right now. So now we're using video bokeh mode, so you should see stronger depth of field and it should look relatively natural. Edge detection is pretty good too. I mean, you'll see it probably messes up my hair a little bit, but if I'm wearing a hat, edge detection is on point. It's a tighter crop though, so you probably want to put this on a selfie stick if you want to film using this mode. And all the sound you're hearing is coming directly from the internal mic of the phone. Okay, let's talk overall hardware. So like I said, the overall shape of the Oppo Find N2 is very similar to the original Oppo Find N. So you have an outside cover screen that's relatively small at only 5.5 inches. It definitely feels like a really small screen in 2022 compared to any traditional slab flagship. This is a 120Hz OLED panel. It's not an LTPO panel though, so it's just either 120Hz or 60Hz. Open it up, you have a 7.1 inch OLED display, 1200 nits of max brightness, and this is an LTPO panel. Refresh rate can get as low as 1 Hz up to 120 Hz. The hinge is really well made and can actually stay in place mid-fold, just like a Samsung Galaxy folding devices. This is good news because the last couple of foldable phones from China I've tested, like the Xiaomi Mix Fold 2 and the Honor Magic VS, does not have a hinge that can stay in place like this. So this has been very useful in Japan, as I've been able to just put this on a tabletop somewhere and take group shots with my friends without needing to ask someone to hold the camera. The hinge is very well built. Oppo says it's redesigned it to make it thinner and lighter, and that's why this phone is so light. Of course, the Find N2 folds completely flat, unlike the Galaxy Z Fold 4, but it doesn't have an IP water resistance rating. Inside is a Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 with 12 gigs of RAM and either 256 or 512 gig of storage. There's a 4512 mAh battery in here that can be charged at 67 watt charging speeds, which comes with the package. Now the battery size here is smaller than the battery in the Honor Magic VS, but considering this is a much smaller phone, I guess that's acceptable. I am disappointed by the fact that this phone is still relatively thick at 14.6 millimeters when folded and 7.4 millimeters unfolded. Now this won't look bad if you hold it next to a Galaxy Z Fold 4, but for someone like me who have held the Xiaomi Mix Fold 2, this feels a little bit bulkier. The Xiaomi Mix Fold 2 measures only 5.4 millimeters when unfolded. It is still to this day the thinnest foldable phone on the market, but the Oppo Find N can take the claim for the lightest foldable phone on the market. Now you're watching ultra-wide camera footage. And by the way, if you're wondering why I'm still wearing a mask, that's because everybody in Japan still wear a mask, and I'm just trying to respect the culture. So this is a 1/2 inch sensor, 48 megapixel. So it's the hardware is not going to compare to a slab flagship, but I think for a foldable phone it's pretty good. There's also a 32 megapixel telephoto zoom lens. I can do 2 times optical zoom. So right now this is a 2 times zoom right here. You can go up to digital zoom up to 20 times, but footage will look really soft. So generally speaking, this zoom lens is a little bit disappointing even by foldable phone standards, because we have seen phones like the Vivo X Fold, which gives you an actual periscope zoom lens. And there are 2 selfie cameras, one on each screen. It's a 32 megapixel selfie camera with f2.4 aperture. Now the Find N2 runs ColorOS 13 over Android 13. This is a China unit, so there's no Google apps out of the box, but you can install Google apps really easily and all the apps work natively. So Google Mobile Services is built into this phone. I'm a fan of ColorOS because it has a lot of intuitive shortcut gestures, like swipe down with 3 fingers to grab a screenshot. You can double tap on the screen to turn it on or off. If you want a split screen, you just swipe down with 2 fingers and it will trigger split screen. Now, even new to the software this year is you can split screen horizontally now. Unfortunately, only with Oppo's first party apps. So if you are using an app like YouTube, which is where you want to split horizontally, you cannot. You still cannot split horizontally with YouTube, which is very unfortunate. But you can at least resize the windows now, so it doesn't have to be a 50-50 split. And there's a bar up top that you can tap on to open this little quick menu, and then from here you can cycle through all your most recently opened apps. You can also launch apps in floating windows by swiping up and hold. Otherwise, everything works as advertised. You have an app tray, you swipe down for the notification shade and all the shortcut toggles, and there's a lot of extra Oppo OnePlus style gestures that I really like. Like you can draw a circle to launch a camera app. I find this very useful, and you can control music playback by swiping on the screen when you're playing music. Alright, let's talk cameras a little bit more. I think you've seen enough video footage so far to know that the Oppo Find N2's video performance is pretty good. Stabilization's on point. There's OIS in the main camera. Dynamic range colors are all excellent, and I'm a fan of the bokeh video mode where you can adjust the degree of blur behind you. It doesn't look as good as the real camera, of course, but looks realistic enough. As expected, video quality drops off a little bit at night. You see a lot more micro shakes, but you see that all the dynamic range and lights still look pretty well balanced. As for still photos, I think for a foldable phone, it's very hard to find complaints other than, I guess, the 2x zoom is a little bit weak. Like, look at the shot right here. I love how the colors turned out, the details, the sharpness, everything. And then when you switch to the ultra wide, you get a sweeping landscape that during the day you can still crop in relatively nicely too. I'm impressed by the dynamic range and HDR in both main camera and ultra wide photos. I think the credit goes to Marie Silicon X, which is Oppo's self-developed imaging chip. With the main camera in particular, I find that the f1.8 aperture with the 1/1.5 inch image sensor is large enough that I can shoot at night without resorting to night mode. Ultimately, I think the camera system here is good for foldable and perfectly fine even when I compare across all the phones. But of course, it's not going to beat a Xiaomi 12S Ultra or a Vivo X80 Pro Plus or the upcoming Oppo Find X6 Pro. As for overall performance, I've had no major issues after like 5-6 days of using Japan. I have been using this out and about, like navigating, running Google Maps on half the screen while WhatsApp on the other half. Just a bunch of YouTube videos, a lot of photos with friends, and this thing has been performing without any issues. Battery life, it's fine. It's not the greatest battery life because I've been out and about using the cameras a lot, and I've been out for like 13-14 hours at a time. This phone has not been able to last me the entire 14-hour day. So usually I'll leave the Airbnb in Tokyo at like 9 a.m. and usually by dinner time at like 9 p.m. it would be down to like 10% battery life. So that's 12 hours later. So I would then need to find a charger before I can make it home by midnight or at 1 a.m. But at least the charging case is included with the box. In fact, the packaging is very nice. It even comes with a case and a fiber cloth. So overall, there's a lot to like with the Oppo Find N2. Unfortunately, this phone is only sold in China for now, but Oppo did leave the door open for the possibility of an international release. They said they're going to gauge reception and how the market responds to this device. So if you want this phone to launch internationally, like, speak out, tweet at Oppo, share this video, let people know you think the Find N2 is awesome and you want to see this internationally. It's good to give Samsung more competition. Now, I guess the big question is the Find N2 better than the Galaxy Z Fold 4? I think the Galaxy Z Fold 4 still has a little bit more polished software with support for third-party apps like Google Apps. But that's also because this phone is running on China ROM. Maybe if this runs on Oppo's international color OS, it will have support for all those Google apps too, including horizontal split screen. But as of right now, the software edge still goes to the Galaxy Z Fold 4. As for camera performance, I think it's pretty much neck and neck, but the Z Fold 4 has a better zoom lens, a 3x zoom to a 2x zoom here. But as for the hardware design, in-hand feel, I like the Find N2. The fact that it folds completely flat, the fact that it's a little bit lighter, the fact that the corners doesn't come to a little sharp edge, so when I'm holding it in my hand, it just feels a lot more comfortable. And I think the leather back gives it a nice touch too. So in terms of looks, in-hand feel, overall hardware, I like this phone better than the Fold 4, but the Fold 4 still wins in the usual areas: software, water resistance rating, S Pen support if you care about that. I personally don't, but a lot of you guys do, and I guess availability for now. But even if this thing doesn't launch internationally and you want to import this phone, it's very doable because Oppo is selling this in China for only about 1,100 US dollars. So even if you import it and you pay a markup, you can probably get this thing for like 1,500, 1,600 US dollars. So still cheaper than the Z Fold 4. So that's about it for this review of the Oppo Find N2. I'm gonna have more content on this device, including a versus against the Z Fold 4, maybe some more camera testing. So stay tuned, and if you're interested in keeping up to date with all the latest on smartphones and other gadgets, please consider subscribing to my channel or follow me on Instagram at Ben's Gadget Reviews. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.